All right, I was watching Lulsuit's video about no Ja, no Lo, no Zod, no Cham, no. And every time I want to like actually think about this, I feel like I need to go to the rune word list and look at them all and try to figure out some sort of pattern. So I figured I'm just going to do it finally. So I'm going to go through all of them, starting with the ones that are about Ohm, because that's where we're kind of talking about that Ohm goes up in value. You know, Burr drives the market, Lo, Zod, Cham, Ja, low value. So we're going to start here and go down. Fortunately, they're organized that way. Although actually I need to do these ones up here first. The ranged ones. And then we'll go back to chaos. But let's just dive right into it. I've got a few notes on each of them, so I might slow down a sec as I'm peering back at them, but let's go. Wrath. 60% amp damage on a bow that is very fast. This is always going to have value in a lot of different physical builds, primarily things like Shockwave, Wind Druid, Mind Blast, whatever. So it's going to be useful on multiple builds. Keep in mind here as I go through it, things that I say it's useful for multiple builds versus one build. That's important because of what it means as far as how many people are going to use these runes. So using a Burr, and it's a high value one. Faith has an Ohm as well as the Ja, so it's costing one of those high value runes, but this is good. Faith is fine. It's used in a lot of builds that want that fanaticism, that higher level one to get better breakpoints. Things like, the Ice On and a whole bunch of summoners, whatever. It's fine. Ice, all the things we know about Mavs means that like being able to shove 5 facets into a Mavs bow is just insane. So like Ice is just not that great right now. I think Lulsuit has talked in the past a bit about how to maybe fix Ice, but we'll see. Brand is used in Chug's Bone Spear meme build. Like, is that it? I don't know even what to do to change Brand to make John low valuable. Like, I don't even know. Like, any changes that you'd make would have to be so big to just like change the identity of the item, I think. Mist is useful for summons on one build and uses a Cham. Anything else, it's like if you want to put on a Merc, yeah, maybe if you want the Vigor, but not many people would do that. If you want concentration, you figure you might as well just use Pride instead, which is like higher value. Concentration Aura. So that's the bow ones, really. And it's just, you'll keep seeing this pattern. Ohm and Bird, rune words, higher value, higher variety compared to what we see with the rest of them. So Chaos, whatever, one build, meme, I don't think this matters for Ohm's value, really. Called Arms is used on a lot, almost all non-barb builds. Not almost all, but a very, very significant number of them. Ohm gets value there. Fortitude, Lulsuit talked about Fortitude. This is the weapon. Like, I don't see anyone ever use the weapon, but the armor as well. It seems to be used less and less these days, and like people aren't building it on their mercs as well as much, which is kind of weird. I'm not overly sure why, but Grief, the low rune Grief has been nerfed into the ground as it righteously needed to be. The plus damage was busted with Smite for Ubers and crap like that. It's still a pretty good item, actually, but I would kind of like that plus damage to make Smite and Kick a bit better. I don't know. It's probably wrong to do that. But still, like, Low is not really getting much value from Grief right now. It doesn't really have a place anymore. Beast. Beast is used, for all sorts of builds. You just shove it right onto your summoner's mercenary, your physical guy, and you just don't even think twice. If you want Might, Fanaticism, or Cry at the same time, you build one and you just move on. So there's a Burr, high value. Eternity, whatever, nobody cares about Eternity. Small thing. Infinity, we don't need to talk about this. You know how busted and important having 2 Burr runes for Infinity is. So, Fury, the damage here is just like not quite high enough. The adding Indestructible is nice. I look at this now and kind of want to build one. The problem is, like, it feels like this is kind of unfortunate. This plus to Frenzy like makes you think that this is what it's for, even though I have seen it on like claws and stuff before. I don't know, it just feels a little underwhelming. Famine is good for Vengeance, essentially it, and it also has an Ohm in it. So like it's not really making Ja particularly more valuable. Like there might be something else you could use it for, but like Vengeance is the primary thing, and that's one build once again. Phoenix, like hardly anybody uses the weapon. There might be something cool here, but the shield is good. I like the shield a lot. Very good on certain builds, and multiple builds. Phoenix shield is probably fine. Destruction, this is like a meme proc item, and it also costs a burr, so like you're not going to be raising the value of Low and Ja here because of destruction, unless like kind of like a brand, unless you entirely change what it does, which you probably shouldn't do. Last Wish is way too expensive generally, so it's not going to be helping Ja really. It's if you have the ability to dump 9, 10, 11 high runes, whatever it is, on a weapon, then like you don't even care. It's like very small percentage of people are ever going to build this, so whatever. Plague I think is fine. It's used in multiple classes for the +2 to skills, and I rolled 3 of them in order to get my +2 claw finally. So because you want to craft multiple would be ideal, I wouldn't do that to get 10% more damage on a roll if it cost half a high rune. +1 skills, yes. I mean the 10% on a weapon, but it'll burn through more cham runes, so I think this is fine as well. A Dominion used in one build, Golemancer, and it's not even that popular, so you're not really helping cham here. Also, it takes an ohm. Like this didn't really do too much to cham, I think. Doom is used in really only very niche builds. It's got not quite enough damage to be like super GG compared to those slams people have later. It can't be Eth as well because it doesn't have indestructible if you want to use it, so that hurts. And then for mercenaries, most people want damage enhancing for themselves, either a fanaticism, might, whatever, or a conviction, or a curse, amp damage or low resist. So it falls flat that it just doesn't have one of those. There are a couple classes that don't need one of those. Bone Necro comes to mind, but it's a pretty small minority that might use it, let alone do use it. Hajj, we'll talk about Hajj, Dragon, and Dream all together because Oradin got kind of nerfed, and that's once again like one primary build that uses these. I know Dream has some extra uses. Dragon you'll use on the Firebar maybe, except Corpse Morn I think is usually better. Oradin was nerfed rightfully so. After season 1 and 2, it was kind of OP. It doesn't need the power it had back, but maybe give it like a level back, each of them. Give it 13, because I think it was at 14, but then there was also the buffs to the elemental resist aura. Let's keep going. Pride, is used a lot. This level 16 to 20 concentration is great, but it's people that also can normally shove a Templar's Might on their Act 2 mercenary in order to make it worthwhile. And for a lot of people, we want the fanaticism instead as well. So it's just not quite used enough, I don't think, to get the cham and the low like that much higher. And it's like a rich man's item as well. Obsession, this is one of the ones from the from D2R, the Zod. Like I still don't know why you necessarily build this, but I don't really care about that one. Breath of the Dying, whatever. Zenith is the other one. Has a jaw in it. It's used. It's okay and interesting. It's one of the new PD2 ones, but like the Salvation is such low damage now. 8 to 12. Like even if it's 12, 7% elemental damage. It's just like not enough. I don't know. It is not quite that great. Even in groups, people get their own resists to 75 or higher. It's nice in Ubers against Mephisto and Bale, but I don't know. So we'll switch over then to Helms. Ferocity is the only one here. We talked about Dream, and this is Zeal O-Skill. So this is another one of the new ones, and it is a meme build. Zeal O-Skill is going to be a meme forever. Other classes have their own physical ability, or Sorceress. We've done this before with like Passion. It's nice that this is here, but it's never going to be a huge amount of builds. Let's move on to armors. There's a few armors here to talk about. We have start all the way down here. There we go. Fortitude we talked about. Fine, but just not enough. It's why low holds value in the early season, really. Ohm, Surath, Bramble, like, I need to talk about that. Not really relevant. Dragon we talked about. Chains of Honor. Chains of Honor is a good, like, glue for any sort of build that you have where you had to sacrifice resist to kind of get the thing working elsewhere. And you want skills, and the damage to undead and demons is useful in the life leech. But it's really this resists, a little bit of PDR plus skills. But it's used in a lot of builds because of that, because it's kind of like just a jank glue. Enigma is still used, even after the nerfs here. It's still used in things like Singbarb. Hammered in maybe if you're still using it. But Singbarb in particular, I think, you can just teleport in and start slamming. And then shields, last of all, we'll talk about. We've got Exile. It's nice, and more than just paladins anymore. So Decrepify, I don't know how much less it's used now with the Decrepify instead of Amp, but we'll see. Dragon, we talked about. Dream, we talked about. And Phoenix, I think, is really good. The minus fire, the minus physical, or the extra physical damage means it's a pretty good item. I do like Phoenix a lot. I think it is fine, as well as the plus max resist and stuff makes it good for Ubers. A couple other notes. Ohm, just to talk about why it's so valuable. You can just shove 4 to 6 in any GG weapon. We know that, but it's Call to Arms, Exile, Faith. It's just very useful. Low, max light resist might be the least useful of the 4 right now because of how the Ubers deal damage. Fire for declone, cold and poison or cold for declone as well, and then poison and cold for Rathma are way more important. And low is the most expensive. It's kind of unfortunate. I tried to build those new rune words in order to kind of fix some of this rune value problem. Cham has gone kind of to 0.4 to 0.5, which has helped. It's kind of 0.4 again sometimes now, but I think if we try this again for more rune words in order to increase rune value, you could be a little bit more aggressive, Senpai and team. I know you like to stay conservative to start, like you did with the new leveling uniques in Season 4, before all the new high-end stuff we got in Season 5. Things like Brimstone Rain have wide class appeal for a lot of physical damage casters, whereas we talked about so many of these have narrow class appeal, 1 or 2 for the new ones, as well as some of these other builds that use low jaw Cham. They need wider class appeal, and it's somewhat unfortunate because it's tough to do that without working into the slots that are currently attributed by these items that do have high class appeal or wide class appeal. So I don't necessarily know the answer to it, but just figured I'd go through, figure out what is going on with some of these rune words and add a few insights. Thanks. See ya.